Moving on a few weeks now to the Welsh 2-day, and we're at the special test at Crossgates. Conditions are quite good, although we have had some rain. That was close then. John Price and Mick Fern nearly hit the tree, and right on their tail are the Neville brothers. Oh dear. Two local riders, Bob Buck and Graham McPhee from Raider, they get airborne, and they're closely followed by Ivan Manning and Pete King. This is Barry Hayward and Roy Jeffries. Two competitors from the Isle of Man, David Baxter and Martin Bracey. Merlin Ambrose and Chris Evans from Llanelli. These are all clubman riders, but it's the expert riders coming next. And the first ones we see are number 25, Ray Ferguson and Wayne Williams from Wantage. I don't think they've won the Welsh, but they've won the Powys 3 times, from 87 to 89. Number 28 is Paul Pellin and Sue Kemp from Cranley. I think they won the clubman class here last year. Another Bristol team coming now, Alan Brown and Paul Avery. Phil Sparks and Roger Tuck from Bristol, they won the event in 1986. Ashley and Martin Wooler, they were runners-up in the Powys a couple of weeks ago. The two Eric Maguires, number 30, but coming on the inside are Bowen and Manning from Bristol. They won the Powys Enduro. They'll never get through the gate like that, though. Bowden and Manning get to the gateway first. It was a close thing. They're not the fastest of riders on the special test, but they managed to go fairly quickly when the going is hard. This is the Grimshaw brothers, who got a bronze medal at the Powys a few weeks ago. Only one German entry here today, number 41, Romer and Metz. Gary Wolfe and Dave Prosser, closely followed by John Hall and Nigel Lillywhite. The fastest test time in the morning was done by Sparks and Tuck. They were a good 15 seconds quicker than anyone else. Our two local lads, Kenny Williams and Andrzej Zembrowski, they're in the expert class this year. They're battling their way around the special test and finished up with a time of 8:47, but should have done better really, because I think they helped to mark it out. Out in the country, the going was getting tougher all the time. I'd been told of a boggy area somewhere in the forest, but I couldn't find it early on in the day. Paul Pellin and Sue Kemp up into the expert class this year. A very good first test time for them as well, 8 minutes 12 seconds. Several sidecars come in now. That was Timothy Cuff and Rob Lees. I can't read the number on the second, but there's 2 or 3 more coming. This is number 4, Paul Lawrence and Richard Shaw. Coming just behind are expert riders Alan Brown and Paul Avery from Bristol. They're on a 650cc Kawasaki Wasp. Their test time earlier in the morning was 9:34, but they weren't going to go much farther today. Barry Hayward and Roy Jeffries enjoying their ride around the countryside, but things did get tougher as the day went on, and they didn't finish. John and David Sheard from Hebden Bridge, they picked up a bronze medal at the Powys, but the Welsh was going to prove too tough for them. It proved to be a very difficult day for all of the sidecar riders. This is some of the easy going we're watching now. Number 27 is Gareth and Gethin Thorne from Caerphilly. Watson Sinclair from Bristol, number 1. Remember, they had a bit of trouble starting the bike. Another sidecar, I think it's the German team, Peter Romer and Wolfram Metz, number 41. They'd done a good first test time of 8 minutes 14 seconds, but they were struggling early on in the day, and there was worse to come because this is that boggy area in the forest, and it really was completely unpassable for some of these sidecar riders. John Young and Nick Morgan, there's smoke and steam rising everywhere. And Noel's here somewhere. Hello, Noel! If any of you want to know who marked out this section, well, there's the culprit. But I can tell you that on the second lap, this little loop was cut out. But of course, by that time, it was too late for a lot of the sidecar riders. It also caused a lot of problems for our solo riders, and many of them packed in after day one. One of the sidecars developed engine problems in the bog and had to be towed out several hours later. There was mud and water everywhere on day one, and it was catching up with some of our sidecar riders. This is Ashley and Martin Wooler just diving into a bog. Luckily, they kept that front wheel out of the mud, and with a bit of pushing, they did get out from there. This was a bad place to get stuck because there wasn't really an alternative route around. Sparks and Tuck had been waiting for a couple of minutes, and they couldn't really wait any longer. So they were just about to dive headfirst into the mud. Well, that certainly doesn't look so good. They're going to be a while getting out of there. And indeed, they were stuck there for quite some time, but some of the marshals had arrived, and really they had to find another way around this bog for the sidecars, so they had to come through the trees, and it was quite difficult in there too. Our cameraman was busy getting good shots right in the thick of it. John and Stephen Grimshaw, they're in a hurry. Pete Pesterfield manages to give a big smile. I think Graham West is with him somewhere. Kenny and Andre having a bit of help from the locals here. Sparks and Tuck were given a helping hand, and the sidecar did appear out of the mud. But a little later, we nearly lost Roger Tuck. He took a mud bath. This was an unfortunate spot for these two lads, and they were going to be 12 minutes down on the day. Colin and Philip Cobden appear. They weren't going too well on the day and had lost some time. They weren't going to tackle the bog and were quite happy to wait until the avenue through the trees got clear. In the clubman class, Chandler and Larkin were still battling on, but they'd lost lots of time. And it wasn't only the riders who were having trouble. Here's a spectator who's lost his Wellington. He obviously wanted to take some good photographs, but I think this is the best shot of the day. Later in the afternoon, a tired band of sidecar riders were nearing the finish. There were only two to go clean in the expert class, the Woolers, number 34, and Bowden and Manning, number 38. Sparks and Tuck had been the quickest on the special test, but they shouldn't really have stopped in that bog. Paul Pellin and Sue Kemp, first test time of 8 minutes 12 seconds, but I think they've lost about 7 minutes somewhere today. Peter Pesterfield and Graham West, 9:29 on the test, a bit slower than some of the others, but they've only dropped 2 minutes today. I have made one mistake. Kenny and Andre were also clean on the day. Here are the Cobden brothers, who are 26 minutes down. I think that's the Sheard brothers. They're looking pretty tired and they're 24 minutes down. At the start of day 2, we'd lost about 10 of the clubman riders. Chandler and Larkin were in a bit of a hurry and nearly knocked the commentator's table over. I went to watch some of the action at Bill's Quarry. This was a tricky downhill section. It's Richard Chandler and Dave Larkin behind the tree. They don't like the look of this rocky section, so they're getting off and easing the sidecar down very slowly. I think they've made it. Paul Pellin and Sue Kemp, I don't think they're going to stop for anyone. Phil Sparks and Roger Tuck looking very clean this morning. They come straight down the hill. Later in the day, we meet up with the sidecars again in the Radnor Forest, and Sparks and Tuck are not having any problems with the muddy and wet conditions. The Cobdens were also going well and put in the mud to fly. Some of the time checks were so tight that everybody lost time, including Bowden and Manning. Pellin and Kemp were finding it a bit harder today and were going to be about 40 minutes down. Clubman class, it's Manning and King, number 8. They were lying in second place after day 1, 9 minutes behind Jones and Williams, but they were going to win the event, even though they lost 49 minutes on day 2. Some narrow tracks in the forest and not much room for the sidecars. The Woolers went clean on day 1, but not too good on day 2, and were going to be 50 minutes down. Ray Ferguson and Wayne Williams had lost 19 minutes on day 1, but day 2 was going to prove too tough for them. Towards the end of the day, there was another special test for our competitors. It was a motocross course at the Nyers farm near Pennybont. Kenny and Andre had also lost quite a lot of time on day 2, about 40 minutes, but they were going to finish and get a bronze medal. Manning and King in the clubman class, they'd got it all sewn up really, because their nearest rivals, Jones and Williams, had retired. Only 2 competitors in the clubman class managed to finish this event. It really was a grueling 2 days. Although Pellin and Kemp had lost quite a bit of time, they were able to do some very good test times, just over 2 minutes for both laps. In the expert class, the Premier Award went to number 38, Bowden and Manning, and runners-up were Sparks and Tuck.